Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just working on my mic here. Let me just adjust this real fast. Okay. All right, we're good to go. Sorry about that. Just had like a slight issue with my mic, but it all worked out. I'm here. We're ready to rock. Welcome to the Money Cure. I'm your host, Sean Grant, in case you didn't know, but I'm sure you do if you're here. But anyway, super exciting topic to discuss and talk about today as it relates to money. Okay? And so nowadays, for me, when people talk about money, I don't think about it in terms of dollars, in terms of euros, in terms of yen, in terms of pounds, in terms of pesos, Canadian dollars, or anything like that. I don't think of it that way. And the reason why is because I discussed the other day on a video I did, and I actually even talked about it on the podcast, if I remember correctly. Basically, how anything 3D is of a lower vibration than fourth dimension. So, to simplify that, because I don't want to confuse you, third dimension is solid, liquid, gas. Okay? Fourth dimension is thought, feeling, emotion, intangible stuff. The intangible stuff is more power than the solid stuff. Okay? For a lot of people, that's hard to believe, but that's the truth of the matter. So when I think of money now, I think of money as a fourth dimensional thing. And what this does is it basically just reinforces and reassures me that, one, I never have to worry. Two, I'm always unlimited. And three, I have access to as much money as I need and desire. So that is a little bit of what having a fourth dimensional consciousness as it relates to money can do for you. And it changes, it transforms your life. And that's what it comes down to. But today we're going to talk a little bit about something that is so very important, right? And it's also something that if you devote the time to and the effort to, you will see the benefit come from it. Okay, so I'm always begged to ask the question, what's the difference between somebody who is truly wealthy and rich and abundant in many ways and somebody who is impoverished? And it always gets back to the mind, the mind power. The ability of the mind to believe or accept what it knows and thinks is true, not necessarily what is. Okay? And so this is important because let me just give you an example. The reason why it's so important for the mind to always believe that it is wealthy, that it has a consciousness of wealth, because sometimes the physical doesn't always show that, especially in the beginning when you're transforming from an impoverished consciousness to a wealth prosperity consciousness. So you have to have the mind power to know that the physical money is only the symbol of the level of consciousness you have from the thought form and the spiritual and the fourth dimension, okay? So when you think about it, you always can kind of recognize this at work because rich people tend to get richer, poor people tend to get poorer. Rich people lose a lot of money and then all of a sudden lose a lot of physical money, but all of a sudden they find a way to make it back and it comes back. Where poor people hang on to every penny. And when I say poor, I'm not being ruthless or calling names to individuals. All I'm saying is that whether or not you fall within one of those two consciousnesses or consciousness, Um, it's just a decision that you've made in your mind. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? It doesn't have to be that way. You can physically seem like you are struggling financially, and inside you feel like the wealthiest person alive. You feel like a multimillionaire. You feel abundant. You feel prosperous because you understand the principles of what the mind is convinced. For literally, I think about 4 or 5 months, every single night I wrote, I am infinitely wealthy, prosperous, and abundant. I wrote that down 100 times every single night. Even sometimes I would write it during the morning because it was my understanding that my mind had to be convinced that regardless of anything outside of myself, I am wealthy, I am prosperous, I am abundant. Okay? And so what this does, this leads you to a shift that says you are wealth, you have wealth, you are wealthy, you are prosperous, you are abundance, no matter what unfolds outside of you. No matter what unfolds outside of you. It can seem as if somebody has duped you over. You're still wealthy because you know what? Wealth understands that it's the God in you. It's the all that is, the universe that is the source for all things. The universe is the supply for all things, especially when it comes to money. And it has infinite channels to be able to manifest it in so many ways. Our problems are that we latch on to a job and we think the job is the only channel for money to be manifested. Think about how many individuals are living hand to foot or hand to mouth with their jobs because they believe in their minds that it is the only way that they can make money. And it's the society, it's the system that leads you to believe that you have to work your way to getting one job that you give your entire life to. Just imagine how much of your life you're giving to a job. What could you do with 40 hours in a week if you understood the true concept of wealth, right? So it's just definitely something to think about. And it's definitely something, if you're like me, when I was doing it, it just raised up so much more emotion to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it. Even when I had to live on less, by working for myself, it was so much more enjoyable because I had my freedom and I understood the concept that my financial good can come from anywhere. Like I can remember being a personal trainer, but also understanding that I was always open to how money was going to show up in my life. And it was so magnificent to watch things unfold the way that they did. I'm telling you, like, I've done a lot of things in my life, but at the time I was a personal trainer. And there were instances, and if you've ever personal trained, you know this can happen. People just decide not to show up or not to pay you at the time that they're supposed to pay you. And which now I know if you're doing that, you have to take the money up front, preferably automatic. I know this now because I'm a much greater businessman than what I was. If you're ever doing any type of coaching or training like that, get that money right away up front, because then it's not that you're thinking in lack, but it covers you right away and you don't have to worry about it. So whether or not that person shows up, you're still paid. But see, I had to learn the hard way because people would literally wait until like maybe an hour before and they would cancel. And it would be the day that they would have to pay and they just wouldn't pay. And so a lot of that was me because that's what I was radiating out, you know, lack and attachment and stuff like that. But still, just learn from my mistakes. But the most important thing is, getting back, before I get too far off of track, is your job is not your only source of income. Your job is not your only source of financial good. God is your source. Your job is one channel, right? And so as I'm there and these people are canceling on me. All of a sudden, I receive a residual check from a movie I did like 7 years ago. Not only that, I received like a refund check, or this person who owes me money gives me money. These are just examples. I get hired to do coaching, which I hadn't coached in like a couple years, but then somebody hires me to do relationship coaching to help them with their relationships. And this was how stuff showed up that added up to what a normal salary would be, but it was because my mind was open to it completely. Okay, so now let's get into the shift. Jesus, it took me 10 minutes and 40 seconds, but let's get to the mental shift that I talked about I talked about in the title and in the description. The mental shift that you have to make is that money is available to you at all times, everywhere, anywhere, anytime. It's available to you. You have to make that mental shift no matter what the outside says to you, no matter what your bank account says, no matter what is coming in or not coming in, no matter who is duping you or holding back, you have to make the mental switch that money, large sums of money, is available to you all the time, anywhere, any place, from anyone. Shift into that belief. Even if you have to write it down a bunch of times, shift into that belief, and I promise you, you will never lack for money or any other resource that you may ever need at any point in time. And this not only works for money, man, this works for everything. Know that you never lack in love at any time. Love is always available to you. Know that jobs, if you're an entrepreneur like me, jobs are always available to you at any time. And when I mean jobs, I mean like creative work with that you can do under your own time. Time is always available to me, no matter what. You can be at your job right now, but know that that time is always available. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be there in abundance. Freedom is always available. Use it. You don't just have to use it with money. Use it with everything. Make that mental flip, that switch that tells you that you are going to believe what you see and not see what you believe. All right? Because if you do, then the physical has to show up, because keep this in mind once again, the fourth dimension is so much stronger and more vibrationally powerful than the third dimension. So it has to change up. Life goes by your thoughts, not about your physical actions. It goes by your emotionalized thoughts. That's what it brings to you, not anything else. But when you create that shift, in mind, and you know that that resource is always available, that money is always available. It's always available because it is. It's energy. It's not, the physical stuff is only the symbol. You have the real stuff. You have the cause. Latch on to the cause. You are the cause. Your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings. That is the cause. The effect is how it shows up in your life. But it's all about making that switch, making that shift. And when you do, your whole world is going to transform. Your whole world is going to transform. The way you see money will change forever. And that is my objective for you. Make that mental switch. Whatever you have to do, change it up. Change it up. As my phone is ringing to let you know that these are all key points. Change it up and watch as it unfolds. Because the only thing that stops us from ever having the type of money that we desire is the conflicting thoughts in our minds, the conflicting beliefs about what we think is possible. I'm going to tell you like this. Know that everything is possible, because it's only a switch in your mind you have to make to know that it's possible. Know that everything is possible. Know that you having large sums of money is possible, because it is. And accept that. Believe that. Appreciate it. Whatever you got to do, get to that point. Make that switch. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure. We'll talk soon. Take care.